happening.
And we're live. And as always, catch us in mid giggle with the
Oh my gosh, the
pre-show.
pre-show today, friends. The pre-show.
The pre-show was a lot of fun. And Karen and I just recognized, because I was like, oh my God, it feels like forever. Well, it has been. It's been 3 weeks
Yeah.
since we have been together.
I
So
know, right? And the thing is like we didn't realize how much we kind of missed this. So yes, we can't go that long again. That shouldn't happen again. But Natalie did an amazing job as like our respective stand-ins.
Yes,
So
of course she did. Yes, shout out to Natalie. Great, a rising superstar. So we can't let her do it too often, or else we'll be out of a job.
I know. Well, it's funny because I have her chairing with me, like co-chairing with me at North America, and I'm like, you were ready for the main stage there because she co-chaired a lot in Europe and stuff. But every time I do that, I'm like, I want the world to know who she is because she's a rising star in our opinion, right? But
yes.
But then I think, you can pretty much start doing my job any minute now.
Yeah. Isn't that the tension, right? In any business, as business leaders, seasoned business leaders, we want to groom and grow our replacements. But when you get to that point and you realize, wait a minute now, I don't want you to replace me. What am I going to do? It's a weird tension.
Well, let's just go with the fact that both of us are irreplaceable, right? So
okay.
You are irreplaceable. I'm irreplaceable. And actually, Natalie is too. So we're very lucky.
It just makes us have to work harder ourselves to get to the next level ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's actually a pretty good segue to the first thing we wanted to cover, isn't it?
Right. So speaking of irreplaceable humans in both of our lives.
Yes, we'll add to that in a second without going into details, but yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, so there's two individuals that Lenny and I will get into why they're both important to us. But Hugh Davis and Keith Price, they launched, and this was actually going back a week, but Lenny and I didn't have a chance to talk about it, so we're sharing it today. They launched a new insights holding company. It's called Acquest Group. These two are industry veterans, according to the press release, right? But we both know that because we've both known them for decades, which is a little frightening.
Yes.
And if you read about this launch, it happens to be one that says it's going to disrupt all things data quality. And the thing is I really believe these guys, right? They are masters. So where do we begin with why this is important news? Not just to us. We'll start there.
Well, I mean, I guess quick history lesson, although you lived it more than I did. I mean, Hugh and Keith were part of Greenfield Online, the first real online panel, so they were incredibly disruptive.
Oh, I was there. I just have to even jump in. So Hugh and I both went to Fairfield University. I graduated a little bit before him. And, we worked for Andy Greenfield when it was Greenfield Consulting Group before Greenfield Online. I was actually there when Hugh said, hey, I've got this great idea. I think this is where the industry's growing. He was not even 25, friends. He was a young man who said, we need to shift this business model online. And he met with Andy, and he was full of like that vibrant energy of a young man. And that is the Hugh Davis that I just will always hold in my heart. It's just this exciting, I don't know. It was just a really exciting time, right? And then my career took me other places, and obviously he moved on. But I mean, some of my best friends were from that time, people that I still stay in touch with. And, Hugh and I then went out. I'm sorry, I'm ranting because I just adore this human being. We socialized, we were going to happy hours together. We were singing karaoke. I mean, there's probably videos of Hugh and I singing karaoke together. We were at, pool party at my parents' house that they didn't know I was having, but there's photos. Like, I've got the goods on a young Hugh Davis, who is a rock star in terms of his success, coming up with an idea, founding a business model, staying in the industry, moving in to become this incredible, need I say wealthy venture capitalist. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing. And I don't know Keith, but you do.
I do. And so we'll just, we sometimes talk about the Greenfield Mafia, right?
Yeah.
And that's
that I was a part of.
There were just so many people that, as the industry shifted online, this was one of the first major companies, and so influential and so impactful across the board, and so many people that they've touched from a career standpoint, not just at Greenfield, but also in everything else that they've done over the years, and helped to develop and grow and innovate the industry and individual companies. And a lot of folks over their careers, but their careers have touched and been influenced by by Hugh Davis and Keith Price.
Yeah,
Period.
yeah. And I mean,
and myself included.
Dana Stanley worked in that ecosystem as well after me. So I left and pursued a qual path as a moderator, kind of growing my career that way. But after I left, Dana ended up there too. So it's really interesting. I mean, Andy Greenfield was a very smart and savvy, successful businessman. Like I knew that again at a young age. I was like, oh, this man, he is smart.
Yep.
And that was noticeable. And of course, Hugh was a visionary, and obviously Keith was as well. So hats off to both of them. And if we tag them in this LinkedIn post, Hugh will know implicitly why. He's important to me.
And Keith will. I'll say this: there is a point, and I've been public about the journey of Rockhopper and the failure of Rockhopper, after the recession and the struggle as a CEO to kind of, rob Peter to pay Paul, keep people fed, just hold on and get through it. And it was Keith who forced me to recognize that was not a viable, the strategy that I was employing was not viable.
Yeah.
And so it was a hard lesson. It was a needed lesson.
Yeah.
And so not hanging out doing karaoke, but
I mean, there's so much more. The pre-show has, way more.
Yeah, we'll get into all that.
Life, but
yes.
we'll leave it. We'll leave it at what I'm comfortable disclosing to the world.
Yes, right. Yeah, but the shout out for me for Keith is that at the time I did not thank him for that lesson. Now I do, and have for a very long time. So publicly, I'll say, Keith, thank you for forcing me to make a decision I didn't want to make, but needed to be made. And it was a great learning experience. And that's my personal connection, while also really appreciating all of the work that they've done over the years in driving innovation in the industry. So there we go. We'll stop with
there we go. We'll stop.
Let's move on. But don't underestimate them.
Not at all.
What they're trying to do with, as you said, I will not bet against these guys.
Nope,
they
never.
are smart. They know what the hell they're doing. They have a track record of success.
And they have an ability to look into the future and make shit happen, make stuff happen. So
that's all right. All right. The speaking of
people, let's keep going. You bring up this next one.
Yeah, making stuff happen. The shout out to our friends at Highlight, a previous winner of the Insight Innovation Competition in our very first podcast.
She was
Dana. So Fast Company just awarded them second place for data science on their list of most innovative companies.
I know, it's so cool, right? And I mean, when I look at those Fast Company lists, always I'm looking to see if there's any that I really know, and many of them are the big ones. I think they said in their LinkedIn post about this, Spotify held this place at one point, so they are in very good company. So really, not to be condescending, but I feel proud, right? I feel proud of them. So
any of the companies, right? Always, whether or not, but no, for this particular company and knowing their story, of a startup during the pandemic doing product testing and the need to pivot and the work they've done.
If you haven't listened to that episode, friends, go back and find it. It's a great story about pivoting when you need to, when you're trying to innovate. Really good stuff.
Really is. Carly, actually, I don't think we put the link in there, but if you can find it, the link to the podcast, the very first episode of Dana Kim and Highlight, that would be great to pop into the chat.
Thank you.
So shout out to them.
Yep.
Well deserved, and also very cool for the industry.
Yeah.
Right. And when a rise tide floats all boats, when any of our companies in our industry get that type of recognition, it just elevates us all. So, so good job.
Very good. Very good.
All right. Now,
I mean, it's people are going to get tired of me saying, and yet another episode was launched, right? But if you've been tracking the Paid for Your Say series, that 10,000 Humans is releasing week after week, this multi-series similar to Botgate, but I don't even know what we call this particular gate, but it is an expose on this organization. This week we tackled the elephant in the room. So Jay put together clips. He figured out a way to consolidate all these into thematic weekly launches. But this one is the elephant in the room, which is, why is this such a problem? And let's talk about the credibility of qual in the client's eyes, and how much they're going to trust whether the participants are who they need them to be, because it's such a small sample. There is not much room for error. And so we dug into that this week, and we were like, let's just talk about the reason why this is such a big problem, and then we can open up to solutions. So we started to then talk about what does everybody do with this, and by everybody I mean, the suppliers providing sample, the facilities who are recruiting, and Isaac from Sego, very articulately said, like, we have to keep people from getting into facility databases. End of story. We just have to make sure that they don't even get in if they are, like, the security measures have to be, really in place long before they even get to the facility, right? Anyway, so it's a great episode because it talks about the hard stuff, and then it talks about some solutions, which of course I love. Good stuff.
Absolutely. And go back to, what Keith and Hugh and Keith are doing, right? Data quality, guys. We've been harping about it. We will continue to harp about it. This is another example. It is the bedrock foundation of our industry, and it is ripe for change and disruption, and we need to lean into it right now. And here's a great example
of change and disruption.
Speaking, there we go. I see what you did there. So
I mean, for real, right? Go ahead. I mean,
so as we move into the innovation,
innovation portion of the program, which of course have to do with AI, because of course, like, this just
the
let's just resign ourselves to the fact that the innovations that are popping up are largely AI driven.
It is. Well, Bob Lederer is a legend in our industry, right? And he has now launched a AI newsletter. For the Research Business Report. So if that tells you guys, if Bob Lederer is on board driving, on AI, it's not just us.
Back in the day with Playful Insights, and he interviewed me, and he could not wrangle the fact that this was like, a new way of doing qual. Like, he just couldn't get his head around it. And so the whole conversation is me explaining it and him being like, okay, but like, he was just hilarious about it.
Shout out to Bob. Love Bob. We stand on the shoulders of giants, right? But it's just here.
Yeah.
So now, so two things I call it RI this week. I'll talk about the first one. The Quantex AI, $1 million in pre-seed funding.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur who has started companies before, that is not insignificant. When you get people to give you $1 million without a damn thing to show for it, it's a big deal. So
in their product, here's what they say in this press release. What they say about the product is their unique approach allows users to engage in natural conversations with the AI to perform advanced forecasting and dynamic data viz. The breakthrough technology can autonomously explore data within clients' private data lakes, which is, they say that's a first in the market. So I'm not sure if that is a first in the market, because it seems like there are other people who are using these models to get into those private data lakes, but maybe this is the first that is being seeded to this level so that it could expand. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, so I have not. We know that one of the benefits of LLMs is data synthesis, but it tends to focus on unstructured data. We're talking about data lakes to make sure it's structured and unstructured. I have only seen 1 or 2 startups that using a chat interface allows you to explore structured data, create charts, graphs, visualize, pull things together. Basically imagine SPSS meets ChatGPT, right? And they still need some work. And we're still very focused on specific data sets. It certainly sounds like this is a foray people have been moving towards. Now it's out there, of unlocking that critical component of being able to synthesize from multiple data sets using a chat interface versus, a GUI point and click, and or writing code. Those of us have been around for a long time, needing to write code or syntax in SPSS. And so here we are. It's just going to unlock more value across the board, more usability and more utility. So it's very exciting.
It is exciting. And kind of jumping ahead, which I know that I can do, and then we'll just skip over it later in our brief, right? Microsoft released a report. So Carly, it's further down in the brief. Microsoft released a report on 3 big AI trends to watch this year. And one of them is that multimodal AI that you were just talking about, where right now LLMs can process only one data type, largely text, but multimodal models can understand information from different data types like text, images, audio, and video. And that is going to trend up this year. Absolutely. So what's interesting is this particular launch and what you're just explaining about its significance. This is a trend that one of the trends that Microsoft shared that we're going to be keeping an eye on. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that creates an interesting idea of, for Microsoft to do that.
Yeah.
Our industry is still mostly Microsoft driven. It's still kind of the dominant model that we use Excel and PowerPoint for, for exploring things. And as they are incorporating that into Power BI, for instance, they already have Copilot, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine the utility.
Yeah, and they talk in this particular trend report also about the rise of small language models. So to go against the LLMs, right? And what they're saying is the LLMs, which are trained on vast amounts of data, the smaller models use curated, high quality training data. So so very, very specific. So and they have a few products in there also, of course, because they're launching these trends and it's going to be self-serving for them. But that's another one, right? So
yeah. I mean, we really need to get the horse, that we can beat on. And
I know we keep talking about that.
I know we just need to do it.
We just have to go. Friends, if you email us a good link to an Amazon horse so that Lenny and I can just beat our dead horse.
We'll just beat the dead horse. You cannot afford.
Well, there's another. I'm also going to jump ahead to another report that I was going to talk about further down in this show, but here we are. There's the VC capital firm Forerunner launched their 2024 consumer trend report. There's a lot in there. So I think it's totally worth the download because it talks about shifting values, shifting technology. It talks about kind of where people in their respondent pool are right now and what it means. There's some good stuff in there, which we can talk about. But one of the things in the technology section that I read was, they are still tracking people at the early adopter phase with up to 10% adoption for generative AI. And for us, that just takes us back every time because we are just using it, right? And we are still not even an early majority for generative AI, which just I read that and I'm like, gosh, I just can't wrangle the fact that people aren't on board yet. And that makes me realize, of course, we are just early adopters and we are talking about it weekly and hopefully helping people to move to adoption. But it is anyway, so that's another thing to look at in that particular trend report. Really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And actually, let's dig that out for a minute because it was a topic that came up earlier today in a call.
Yeah.
Where somebody asked me, well, our clients aren't asking for this yet, or they're interested but still skeptical.
Right.
And I think that tracks exactly.
Yep.
Some of the largest brands in the world have concerns around confidentiality and data security, et cetera, et cetera. So there's two. It's fine to capture this thought. There's the adoption trend.
Yep.
And then there's the usage trend. And I think those are two different things, and that's what we are seeing in this number here. The adoption should be ahead of usage because we know this is going there, and the innovation is obvious, and we need to explore and utilize these tools to track where things are going to be in a few years. The usage. Once we've unlocked and proven the use cases from an adoption standpoint, then the usage catches up. And it's just a transition point. Go back to what at the very beginning of Hugh and Keith with online surveys. Right? We lived through that. And it took about a decade for it to become the dominant model. So, but it started and was ramping very quickly from that very beginning, right? And but I don't think we're talking about a decade, because the technology is just advancing too quickly and being integrated in at the enterprise level by the major tech companies like Microsoft. right? And you have that type of movement and shift by these companies that are tent poles of the whole damn world, truly, right? They are integral to the functioning of our planet, whether we like it or not. That's just the reality. So that's where things are going to go. So beat the dead horse.
Well, speaking about our planet, which I do want to just go to, the third trend in this Microsoft report was AI in science. And it says experts are anticipating major gains in AI tools designed to speed up scientific discoveries. Much of the work aimed at addressing global problems like climate change, energy crises, disease, et cetera, et cetera. So thank the good Lord, there are scientists out there who are adopting to try to say, okay, how can we leverage this technology to, to save the planet or, aspects of the planet that really are in need of saving. So,
just interesting. I was in a conversation yesterday with a hedge fund that is works in life sciences, and they asked, so is there an AI out there that synthesizes all of the information in academic journals and papers, and particularly in preprints, right? I mean, that whole process of going through peer review can take years. So there's a preprint, particularly in life sciences, of literally millions of papers that have not gotten to the journal yet. And so the ability for generative AI to explore that and synthesize that information, that's where that value is unlocked. There's gold out there that just hasn't, or it's just an article that just got put into some journal and they just kind of forgot about it. It didn't get much attention. But that ability to unlock that across all of these scientific and academic journals and the information that could be there, and to correlate that, synthesize that for literally millions of papers that by themselves may not have been that stand out, but connected to something else, becomes, it unlocks so much more information. So don't underestimate those promises. That's what they're talking about. Right? It's mining the gold, and there is literally, we know the gold deposits exist. It's just, but we as humans have not had the ability to necessarily synthesize those things. This technology allows that to happen.
Well, and it leads us to one of the other things we wanted to talk about today is this report on the neuromarketing technology market, right? Because one of the things that was in this particular report that you found was the integration of AI and machine learning algorithm, allowing for analysis of complex neurophysiological and behavioral data, enabling more accurate predictions and insights into consumer responses to marketing stimuli. So, biometrics was, was growing. It was kind of making its way along, and use cases were becoming more prolific. But now, compound that with AI assist, and suddenly now we are changing the neuromarketing game. So that's interesting.
Absolutely. And the form, the barrier for any of the neuromarketing stuff was primarily, especially the physiological components, right? EEGs and all that good stuff, is just kind of form factor and scalability. But facial coding, the cameras are ubiquitous now. Eye tracking, as wearables move forward, right? Having even the EEG and the physiological responses, those are going to be embedded in all of that. So the input, the scale challenges of the inputs are well on their way to being solved, if not have been solved. Now, to this point, this report is the unlocking the value of those things, of those inputs, into driving better decision making, and we know it's there because it has been for years. But it unlocks scale, which reduces cost, increases speed. How do we integrate them, to your point, of the information, so that you can deliver the right message to the right person at the right time, regardless of what that is, right? That is the goal of marketing. And these things are scaling up. So I've always been bullish on non-conscious measurement as a category. We have as a business, we've been doing our behavioral IX behavior event for, well, damn near since as long as we have IX. So over a decade, because the value, we knew the value would be unlocked, and now we're at that point where that value is being unlocked, and there's serious money being paid, being invested and paid attention to on that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what's cool about this report, for anybody who is listening to this conversation and saying, do I need to check that report out? If you're at all interested in this, it talks not only about these kind of market trends, but it does go into market drivers, market opportunities, market challenges. So to me, that's worth the download if you are at all in this biometric or neural marketing space, or if it's interesting to you, like, you should check this one out. It's a pretty I think usable, if you're exploring, that's a usable report.
It is. Now that it is one you have to pay for. So
I just got to download it.
You got to just download it?
No, you're right. The link brings you to a one-page summary.
There was a summary, but to get the full report,
it was pretty good though.
It was. The summary was pretty good. I mean, check out the summary, make a decision. But this is one of those companies that's how they make their money. They publish these market reports.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, if you're dabbling, check out the summary. If you are in it, then you should pay for the darn report, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Just fair warning.
Dots. Sorry, I'm being bullish here, but connecting dots to that Forerunners report I was telling you, there is a section on wearables in there, and it was saying that hold on, let me try to get this right in my head. Device usage is fairly consistent at this point, right? It's not like we're getting like a huge increase in device usage, but wearables is catching more of that share, which is really interesting. So it does talk about wearables in that report also. So, if I was doing due diligence as a researcher, I'd want to check multi-sources to see where I'm putting all this information together. So if you're interested in wearables and, from a neuromarketing standpoint and some of these other biometric measures, certainly check out the consumer trend report also that we were talking about, because it does dig into wearables specifically, which, of course, are interesting to me now that I have.
Right. Yeah. The Oura Ring. You have. All right. Let's talk about Media Monks for a minute.
Yeah. I couldn't access this. So this one's all you, because I couldn't access it. I don't know why. Paywall for me or something.
It's so Media Monks part of S4, so Sir Squirrel's company. And they've launched an AI-powered consumer insight solution, Persona Flow, and it transforms customer data into dynamic consumer personas.
Yeah.
It's synthetic sample, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that's effectively what it is. So, or at least the end result is the same.
Yeah, Carly, that link is not an accurate link. That link brings you to Dana Kim's post, just so that I just saw that you posted in there. You might want to take that one down because it's just not the right link. That's part of why I had a problem with it, is because the link that Lenny shared in the original thing brings me up to a paywall. So we had some trouble. So we have to find our audience a better link for that particular article.
Okay, we'll find a better link. So but just another example, of doing that. Then. Do we want to just dive into the at the end, our regulatory actions?
The thing is, now I'm laughing only because Natalie and I did talk last week about TikTok, because we were like, we have to talk about. Everybody was talking about TikTok last week, right? So we did kind of touch on this, but again, if you didn't tune in last week, that TikTok issue isn't going to rest anytime soon. There are small businesses who are like, don't you do that to me. Economically, that is not going to be a move that's going to keep you popular with small businesses. So, we're just talking about this potential TikTok ban. So we started that conversation last week. If you want to have a listen to last week's episode, you'll get more in that. But the other one I think is really interesting, especially when it comes to wearables and personal data. So did you internalize that one about the data broker bill?
Yeah, I mean, it's this slow move here in the U.S. primarily to data protection. So the House data broker bill limits sales of personal data, particularly to foreign adversaries. So there is this political component, and we could have a whole other conversation about that. We'll set that aside. Who's an adversary? Who's not? Who's in the White House and who's control? That could change. Let's recognize that. But at least at the federal governmental level here in the U.S., there's a recognition that data matters. Yeah. And doing some things to put some walls around that. And that's a good thing, even if it's being politicized in a variety of ways. Yeah. So
we will end on that note because we have a couple shout outs to do, right? And we're almost at minutes. So listen, friends, we are less than a month away from IAX North America in Austin. I actually cannot believe it. Still time to get your ticket, though. As a reminder, I think it's in there right at the bottom. Yeah, you can still use the code exchange. If you haven't gotten your ticket, you need to be there. I mean, ticket sales are kind of going up exponentially at this point. This is our sweet spot for attendees.
Yeah.
We already have, I mean, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. We're well on our way to 1,000. We'll be at over 1,000 probably registrants for this event, as we tend to be every year. The agenda is amazing. I mean, some amazing keynote speakers at this point. I've got somebody from the MBA coming that I'll be doing a fireside chat with. I'll be chatting with some friends at Bose, talking about actually a study on sound, which I can't wait, because anyway, I geek out on stuff like that. So just really good stuff coming. Please get yourself to North America and LATAM. Yeah. Our call for speakers is still opened. That event is happening next September in Miami. So it seems like it's still a ways off, but we are working on that as well. And there's a code for that as well, I think. Is there a code? Yeah. That code works for all of our events, probably. So.
And the first time IX LATAM in not North America, in the United States. It's been in Mexico, it's been throughout Central America, throughout South America. But first time here. So if you've wanted to attend that event, understand the innovation and research within Latin America overall, we just made it really easy for you. And that's a great event. A reminder, the very first IEX was in Brazil. So so we have always had a great, wonderful relationship with our friends in Latin America, and it's exciting to bring that event to make it easier for people to attend. Here in the US. It's gonna be a great event. Miami September is not a bad place to be, guys.
It's not. I mean, it's better than Miami in March, apparently.
Well, or Miami in July. Not my favorite place. I have too much.
I have these college age kids. I was all about checking out what was happening in Florida, right? So
right.
No, the one child that went to Florida is down on the panhandles, not in Miami. So few on that regard. But
yeah. All right. Well, I guess that's it. We 2 minutes over, but considering we had 3 weeks worth of stuff to kind of catch up on and lots of things.
We figure it out every time. We figure it out.
We did. So that's it. So great time. Karen, as always, thank you to our listeners. Thank you, Carly. And we'll talk next week.
We'll talk next week. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Yeah.